Hi, I'm going to show you how you can create course groups in your course that maybe it's just your bridge students in that course, um, in that course group, I mean. So you can send them specific assignments, or if you just want to make your folders of work or specific assignments only available for a group of students, such as your bridge students. So there's two things to know here. First, you need to go into your course. And if you wanted to make a course group, if you have a list of all of your bridge students and you want to manually put them into that course group, you can totally do that. It's the More button and then course groups. And what you would do is I already have one made here, but if I wanted to make a different one, I would click Create. And then my next step is if these are all the students and participants in my class, I would just click the check mark and select what students I want to be in that group and click Complete. Since I already have a group there's only one bridge student in this group out of my 2 students in my class. And I can always remove that student from this group and they're good to go from there. By default, your students are all in course groups if you're a secondary teacher based on your class periods that you have them or mods that you have them in PowerSchool. And if you need to adjust those names, because it just pulls from the section ID in PowerSchool, you can technically change those names here so it matches like mod 1 or 1AB or whatever you want that to be. That's another just tip there. So if I wanted to assign my bridge students their own folder or their own assignment so that it's available to them but isn't there to confuse my other students, then I can totally do that. I'll go to resources and I'll build that resource like I normally would. So in this case, I'm just going to do a folder. Just going to call it bridge and I click save. All right, so if I have all of my content and I add things in here, it's helpful if you make a folder first, because if you add anything to this folder, it's going to use the same settings as the folder itself. So if you make the folder so that it's only for your bridge students and they're the only ones who have access to it, if you do that on the front end, then it saves you time and you won't have to go through and manually change every single assignment and piece in this folder after the fact. So I would recommend making the folder first and changing the folder settings so that you can save yourself some time. So if I've made my folder here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the permissions on this folder. So I'm going to give permission to my bridge students to have access to this and not give permission to the other students in my class. So if you ever, if you use Google resources quite a bit and kind of make that connection that it's almost like you're giving sharing access to only some students, but then not sharing access to the others. So I'll click the 3-dot button here in the corner after I've selected the item that I want to change the permissions on. And I'll select permissions. A bit of warning on this, there's a lot of things that could go wrong if you don't follow the steps here very carefully. We've had instances before where teachers have accidentally locked all students out of being able to access a resource because they accidentally clicked the wrong settings on this, or they've actually blocked their own permissions and the teacher can't access the resource. So just be careful when you play with this. And if you have any questions, you can reach out. I can fix it for you. So if I'm looking here, the one that I'm going to select is select who can see and participate in this folder. All right. And it'll show all of my students here. And what I'm going to do is if I made that class group and I only want my bridge students in this group to have access, I'll click bridge and I'll click add. If you don't have a class group made for your bridge students, then it will show all of your students in your class right here, and you can go through and select specific ones. But it is pretty easy and saves a little bit more time if you make that course group in advance and then just select them from here. And I'll click add and I'll click save. All right. And to double check that I have set up my permissions correctly, this is always something that I recommend teachers do. You have some options right here. Always go to see the current permissions of bridge. That's the name of this folder. So if you needed something different, it would show that. But right now, I'm going to see the permissions here, and this tells me who has access to this. So typically, here's an example. My resources and permissions here, if I'm looking at another item in my course, just to give you a comparison, there's a line here that says pupil. And it says that all of my students have the rights to participate and read. So they can all see this page right here called Itslearning Tips for Students. But if I go back to this bridge folder and permissions and view an overview of current permissions, then I can see that's different. I don't have that view there that says anyone with a pupil profile can view and participate and read in this folder. And that's because I changed it to where only those who are in this bridge group can see it. So if you had gone through and selected individual participants, it would show all of their names right here. And by default, you as the teacher keep your normal permissions, but just this group of students can see this. So if I log in as a student who's not in that group, then they won't see this bridge folder. They won't even know it's there. They won't even know they're missing it. So if I add resources to this folder now, maybe it's an assignment. To be due tomorrow. Helps if my little video self isn't in the way. I'll make the assignment. All right. And right now, this is the only student that's in that bridge group. It's only going to show them is this possible group of students who could complete this assignment and who haven't submitted it yet, because the other students don't have access because it's in this bridge folder. And it's helpful that if you move things into this folder, it will automatically change the permissions so that they can only the ones who have access to this folder can see it. So if I move these vocab notes into this folder and confirm, now if I click on vocabulary notes, it changed the permissions here. It doesn't show my other student who's in this class. And I can always double check my permissions if I go to the 3-dot button and do permissions and view a detailed overview of current permissions. And there we go again. It shows that only the bridge student and then the teachers for this class have access. So that can be something helpful for you if you're trying to manage and kind of streamline some of your workflows. The other great thing about using course groups for your bridge students is that you can send a direct message to only that group of students instead of your whole class as well.